This mindful musing is going to be a little art experiment. And I've got some watercolors that I don't often use, and a page in my sketchbook that I kind of started drafting something and ended up not finishing, although it did kind of become the basis for this book here. And I've got some pages on the back that are also just sort of not finished pieces, kind of just experimentation pages behind it. But I also have a little piece of wax paper just to keep stuff from transferring too much. You can do this art experiment though with anything that's been sitting in the bottom of your art drawer, is what I'd recommend. And if you haven't been practicing for a while, this is also a great way to kind of break off the crust that can form after a long hiatus away from your practice. Because all we're going to be doing today is playing with a bit of line and some curvy shapes and maybe overlapping some colors, but really this is just going to be about playing. And the mindfulness aspect is going to be focused on trying to stay present with what's happening, noticing what's happening with the colors and the marks that you're forming on the page. So this is a really great way to just get accustomed and get a feel for some of your art materials or tools. Even if you have new brushes or a new sketch pad, it's a great way to break this in, because we're really just going to be focusing on feeling out what these interactions are like. So I just want to take a few nice calming breaths just to bring us here into the present and try and release any tension that might have built up while thinking about making marks on that scary blank page. Although mine isn't so blank, because I chose that well. Now that I'm a little more calm and centered, I'm going to start by just taking this, and I have a little palette here, but since this isn't really an art project where I'm worrying about mixing the colors too much, I'm going to put some dots straight onto my page, if I can. The other problem with things sitting for a while is they might have gotten a little gummy. So, oh, there it goes. Yeah, this one might be a dead tube. And that is the danger with things sitting at the bottom of the art drawer. Well, hopefully they're not all dead soldiers. Ooh, this doesn't feel promising. Nope. That one is hard as a rock. Oh well. This one feels like it might have some left to it. Yay! They're not all dead. Alright, well, 1 out of 6. That's a starting point. That'll do something. This guy's going all right. We've got two colors, looking good. Ooh, 3. Do we have a 4-man band? Yay, blues in the party. All right, well, I'm glad that the colors that have survived my art drawer are the more colorful colors. So I'm just gonna take a little water and start spreading stuff around, and kind of having fun here with making this like a weird little bird or something. Very abstract bird. Now I'm going to play with doing some figure eights. So I'm just kind of going back and forth in some little loops. I'm going to see how long this paint stays on the brush and how watery we can make these watercolors. If you're using a dry medium, you can start by, instead of making dots, just taking the chunk of pastel or pencil or whatever it is and just start drawing a really high saturation color area. And then practicing with some of these fun shapes. So I'll push some of my yellow around too. Very mustardy yellow. I think I'm just going to do some loops, simple loops from this guy. Push this green around a little bit. Oof, got a lot of water in there. Ooh, it's a very Ninja Turtle green. I know I'm making some silly comments here, but these are actually part of my observation process, is to kind of link the color to something. And that's another way of bringing some mindfulness into this. That red is more of a kind of fuchsia pink to me. This blue is very, what I think of as kind of Mediterranean sea blue, although the Mediterraneans might want to correct me on that. I don't know. But it's a more greenish blue than some of the other blues. Sometimes I kind of relate it back also to where it would sit in my palette if I were to stick it in with, let's say, these guys. So that blue would be right here, that pink's over here, that yellow doesn't exist here. Like, this is close, but I feel like it's a bit darker and richer than that ends up being, and that green's definitely over here with the other Ninja Turtles. So now I kind of want to experiment a little with taking a couple colors and playing with them. So I'm going to go one side of my brush with one, and then try and just grab a bit of another color. And square brushes like this can be really useful for seeing what a color ends up looking like when it's, you can use it to mix it very well, but also keep a little separation by doing the one side, other side thing. And I'm going to go around again and just mix everyone together. Normally when I'm working, I would have some more of this stuff around, but since this is just a playful kind of session, I didn't want to spend too much time agonizing over my setup, because I really just wanted this to be something I could set up in 10 minutes and then just start going with, because that's really what I'm trying to do, is make this as easy on myself as possible. Yeah. One thing about these mustard yellows is when they mix with green, they end up looking very brownish, especially a green like this. So right there, I know that if I wanted to use this to make nature landscape, I would probably need either a lighter, less red yellow, or some white to calm that down. And that's another aspect we can bring in here, is just thinking about what we could apply these to. Because that will help us notice more in this moment. Meditation can absolutely be about just focusing on the now and the present, but mindfulness of this moment, there are sometimes ways that you can use the future or the past to bring yourself more into this moment here. That might fly in the face of what a lot of people are working with or trying to work with in mindfulness. But the whole idea of being only in the present is often misunderstood as you just live for the moment and you never think about the future or the past ever. And that's just not practical or reasonable. The real task of mindfulness is to bring us more into our lives. So your life is happening in the present, in the now, but that's not the end of your life. You're going to be living for a while, hopefully, and you may need to think of the past or the future at different points. So it doesn't make sense to just forget the present completely, the past or the future completely, in favor of the present as this be-all, end-all of existence. If we want to get really esoteric, we could start talking about how all of these things can be constructs of the mind. Trying to get some dry paint here, so my mixing is getting a little bit harder, but I can just use some more water to loosen that up. And it's funny how this ends up looking like a bit more of a forest green than that. I find this green looks very cartoonish, and it's hard to use in landscapes, but see how it mixes with, ooh, that actually looks really neat now. So now I kind of have an idea, if I ever wanted to make a landscape out of that, what I would do. And now I'm just playing around. Now I'm gonna make some mud, I think. Remember when you were a kid and you just kept adding colors to each other because you want all of them to be together? You wanted to see what would happen. And of course, mud would happen, because that's what happens when you mix all the colors together. Well, I'm going to intentionally make some mud now by just going over everything. I don't think I have enough red left, though, to make some real mud. I don't know. Oh, there we go. We're starting to get it. I knew I'd find some mud somewhere. And there we go. I think we're probably approaching 10 minutes if the tingling in my feet is any indicator. And I've experimented with these by just making some fun shapes and mixing colors together. And now I have an idea of what these colors feel like and what they feel like on this paper with those brushes. So I hope you continue if you have the time to continue with this or feel like it. And I also hope you return to it anytime you have some intimidating art supplies clogging up your drawers. Enjoy. For today's session, I have this little bottle, ship in a bottle, and the prompt will be write whatever comes to mind about what you'll miss the most when spring is gone. And since this is a mindful journaling practice, the first thing I'd like to do is bring myself into the present and become mindful of my little desk here and the things I see, like the stickers I've picked out, the flower I stuck here, and my little tiny journal with the calligraphy pen things I've used to just pretty up my little desk here. And I'll also bring attention to what I'm feeling, my posture. Maybe I'll make sure that this book is actually aligned to the center of my core, rather than having the book and centered on the desk and the page somewhere I have to reach for. And I'll just take a couple nice calming breaths. Let my eyes wander wherever they like. And so that I can stay present to time, I'm going to use a little timer. But of course, if you just want to do the writing prompt or experiment with some art, that is absolutely free for you to do. I want to start with just this simple green vine leafy guy. Because these nice, simple, repeating patterns are a good way to warm up my wrist and hand. I know some artists go through all sorts of finger-hand warm-ups, and you can certainly feel free to do that if you like, but I'm fairly warm this morning. I'd already chosen my palette before I got here, but just to explain how I go through that, what I usually do is the first thing I'll pick out are the collage pieces that I want to use in this. And if at any time you want to pause and do that, you can absolutely go right ahead. But I picked out some little stickers and things that I thought fit this theme and that I liked the way they looked together. And then I usually pick colors that seem to go with that by just lining up the pencil to the sticker, or I have an actual palette that I've sketched out in my workbook of different tools I tend to use commonly. So that makes a really easy way to compare these things when I'm working on a piece. And a lot of these, since I tend to work with the same set of pencils, pens, and markers, I get a lot of near matches, but not perfect matches. And that's okay. This is all about experimenting. I'm not trying to sell this to anyone or put it up in a gallery, so it doesn't have to be perfect. But it's a great tool for mindfulness, since I can see how much my perfectionist brain will start chattering at me. Oh, that's not the right green. Oh, I'm sorry. What is it to be a wrong green? It usually doesn't have an answer to that question. Now, I kind of like working from the outside in for some pieces like this, but you can always do it the exact opposite way. With this ship in the bottle, though, it can be a bit useful just to kind of keep in mind that there is going to be an inside of the bottle. So while I'm doing this outside line, I can kind of start thinking about what I want to be the inside line, what that's gonna want to look like. But I did want to make this bottle cap red and bold if I can. I might not be able to. Oh, I went outside the line a little bit there. Perfectionist brain is going to hate that. I might just try doing this in a sketchy fashion to give it that kind of, ribbed bottle cap look. I kind of like that. And do some more of these outside lines, but I'm going to stay mindful that that side of it is actually supposed to be inside the bottle. So I might try making it a bit lighter. And for that, I think I might use just one of my pencils. Oh, that one's not dark enough at all. That was a very poor match. Ooh, perfectionist Caitlin's gonna have a field day with that one. And here it's actually passing underneath the water, so maybe I'll bring back this slightly bluer color. There we go. I'm just now realizing that as I was picking out my palette, I didn't quite decide on what color I want the ship to be. But we're here now, so I think it's going to be a red ship to match my red bottle cap. I suppose I could have also made it a green ship. Well, I guess we're not too late. Whatever that is. Whatever it means to be too late to do something in your journal. The other thing I kind of wanted to try doing was to see how yellow I can make this moon, considering it's got the gray underlining or outline from my journal here. It's great to have these set up because it means I can just plug and play with my journal anytime I want. But it can make it limiting in some ways as well. Everything's a trade-off though, isn't it? But in the spirit of playfully exploring with our art, you can kind of think of ways to get around these problems. Find solutions for them. Like in this case, I've kind of just used a bit of yellow to do some glow effect around my stars and my moon. And now I'm going to enclose that with some light blue for my sky. And I really like the way that's turning out. This provides sort of a contrast, the blue and the yellow being very different hues and sitting in very different places on a color wheel means that if you put them beside each other, they can help contrast one another. And really, the primary colors will always contrast with each other very well, since they're all perfect thirds on the color wheel from each other. Well, maybe not perfect, but that can be a very useful tool for drawing the eye to whatever you want to pay attention to or draw attention to. I really like how that turned out. And now I think I'm going to go with I don't know which blue I like more for this ocean, although I should put some waves on here, I think. I was going to originally color this whole thing with this marker, but I think that'll just take over a little bit too much. And let's see, now I missed a line here. I'm going to use the other blue to just blend in and give the sea some depth. At least of color, if not of dimensionality. Being a ship in a bottle on a page. I went outside the lines again. Oh no! Alright, well, I'm happy with that, even with my little flubs. So I'm going to move on now to my writing prompt. Maybe here is where I'll use this nice bold marker, because I don't think I'm going to be able to do this font without kind of something nice and thick. And I'm not sure if I want to do the whole thing in this color. Maybe I'll grab some red. And as usual, I'm kind of letting myself wander over this thing, but also letting my mind wander to the question itself. So, what does come to mind about what I'll miss most about springtime? So, considering there's usually more questions under the question, for this one, I think my biggest question is, well, what do I think of as kind of the hallmarks of spring? And let's be honest, it's rain, but it's also new things growing. And there's a bit of a relationship there in that the rain nurtures that new growth. So will the sun, but to get the plants out of the ground, first they have to be enticed with a lot of rain. So that will be one of my first answers. The rain and new growth. So in my life, I've got a lot of practices that I've been doing for quite a while, but within those I still have cycles of when they're more in practice and less in practice, or when they get to be, let's say, a bit more restful than active. And the winter time is a good time to come to a rest, with fall and spring serving as good transition times. So this is the transition out of rest into more activity. But to be a gentle transition, it has to be nurtured. It's kind of a silly question mark I've made at the end there, but again, it's a good thing this is just my own personal journal. So, in that spirit, I'm just thinking of some gentle practices I have, like reading with music when it's raining. And walks to see all the new flowers. And nurturing my indoor plants. I should say sprouts. And then slowly moving them outside. You have to be very gentle with new shoots. And what I've been doing with mine is letting them get some sun during the midday and then bringing them back in so that they can have a gentle transition from their nice indoor environment to outside. I also have a little fan that's going to give them some, apparently this kind of movement stimulates good growth hormones for the plant. So those are gentle ways I'm moving them outside. And the walks are gentle ways of moving me outside more. I guess I can also put there prepping my bike for more rides. Needed new handlebar wrappings. So I think that's all I'm thinking of for now on that one. But as usual, I might end up wandering back there. We'll see. So I have my stickers kind of stuck to my desk. Here. I'm going to gently try to avoid disturbing them too much while I pick up some of these objects that I want to put in here. And yeah, I think that'll create some good overlap between these objects. And I think I'm going to try and put that clock in here, wherever it'll fit Let's just make sure, actually. Yeah, that should go right there. Okay. And, suppose this flower sticker, maybe I'll just hide it behind my door, since it is spring is leaving as our theme today. Have all these tapes that I've picked out for this part. We're actually now at about, I forgot to do the timer for my prompt part, so that's a good reminder to be more mindful of that next time. It happens. So, wanted this leafy tape to be my first sort of box encloser for the top. Because I like to make boxes around my prompts to give them some separation from everything else. And it does match some of the colors in there very nicely. And then I think we might as well stick this guy down so he's not moving around too much. I don't know if I've gotten the knack of this glue tape thing yet. Hopefully that'll come. This little thing here has in very small writing, "Seize today, don't believe tomorrow." Which I find kind of funny because it's, I feel like it's a sort of facetious version of Carpe Diem. I come across many people who tend to think of mindfulness as sort of this idea that if you can always just live in the moment and carpe diem for life, or mindfulness through YOLO, can get caught up in sort of preventing themselves from ever thinking about the past or the future. But that's not quite the point of mindfulness. The point of mindfulness is to get you more involved in your life and more present to your life. And your life is going to involve some tomorrows and yesterdays. And not only that, but being mindful that tomorrow is going to come is a form of mindfulness. It would be silly to only live for today and forget that, you know, you have to be at work tomorrow and earn money so you can eat food. That would not be very mindful, to lose track of that as a very, very important part of your life. So there's all these funny ideas we can get about our practices like mindfulness. Now for this door, I've noticed I always want to put the hinges where I think hinges should be on a door as a right-handed person. But I have noticed that when I'm flipping through pages, if it's here, it's going to flip open, kind of run into some conflicts, let's say, with the other page. So I'm going to do this as a reverse hinged door and put the hinges over here. Which means, that'll cover up my butterfly. Oh, so many issues. I'll cover up so much. No, I do like him here. Well, I guess I'm just gonna go ahead and stick down this before putting my hinges on and see where I want to do that. But you know what? I might just let my collage bleed over onto this page and let that be sort of negative space. Now, take a look at some of these stickers and become mindful of where I want them. So I kind of had this charming idea of putting this right over this, even if it kind of conflicts or covers up some of my writing, just because it kind of looks like rain but with stars on it, and I'm very charmed by this idea. Plus it's mostly clear, so I can still read most of that. It just makes it look kind of magical to me. So I think, now we put down some what I like to call butterfly hinges. To make my door a door. Sorry for any weird noises that may have been coming up there. My clip for my microphone got a little unruly. I think I'm going to put this one. Actually, how do I want to do these tapes? I kind of want the red and yellow down with that green, or down with my flowers maybe. So I might rethink where I put this. Maybe right there. Or let's come in just a little tease. Yeah, there it is. Oh. Kinda going off on a fun angle here. Alright, well, that just seems to be the angle it wants to go on, and I don't know how much I want to fight it. So there we are. Maybe I'll use this blue up here. Overlap some bands of tape. It can be really fun with some of these tapes that have a bit of translucency, like you can see the tapes underneath, and that'll create some layers for my tape.
doesn't quite paint the same way, or mix, let's say, the same way colors will. But I always like to think that I'm kind of painting with tapes when I use these. Forgetting about my precious stickers. Now, I like the idea of putting this here. Maybe I'll overlap it there. And now for the pièce de résistance. Try and make sure I'm not going to go over the edge there. And I think I like the placement here, even though it's going to cover up some of my writing. I'll know what's under there. Perfect. I'm very happy with that. Although these tapes might get a little unruly, so maybe I'll use some stronger tape to make sure they stay stuck down. Just a little bit more. Grab a little clear tape. No, I'm too short. No. I'm not too short to grab my clear tape from here. Yay! Next time maybe I'll try and be more mindful though and stick that closer to me since I'll probably want it. Alright, well, I'm happy with that. Overall, now I have a nice little reverse door that I can write some secrets in. That'll be for later though. I hope you enjoyed this creative journaling session, and I hope you join me again. I'll just take a final breath and be mindful of this before we go.